The NFL divisional round is where seasons are defined, legacies are questioned, and long-term narratives begin to harden into accepted truths. For teams still alive, it is a proving ground. For those eliminated, it becomes a reckoning. Few franchises embody that reality more painfully than the Buffalo Bills, whose latest divisional round exit once again reignited debates about head coach Sean McDermott, superstar quarterback Josh Allen, and whether this era has already peaked. The reaction, as always, was swift and emotional. Social media filled with calls for McDermott's dismissal. Josh Allen's turnovers were replayed endlessly. Analysts questioned whether Buffalo can ever get over the hump. Yet reducing the Bills' continued playoff disappointment to a single individual, whether coach or quarterback, ignores the deeper, more complex reality of how NFL teams win and lose in January. The divisional round did not just expose Buffalo's shortcomings. It revealed truths across the league about coaching adaptability, roster construction, quarterback dependency, and the razor-thin margins that separate championship contenders from talented pretenders. This is a breakdown of the true winners and losers of the NFL divisional round, and why Buffalo's failure, while significant, cannot be pinned entirely on Sean McDermott or Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills. A familiar ending, a complicated blame game. Once again, the Bills entered the postseason with legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. Once again, they exited earlier than hoped. And once again, the same questions surfaced: is Sean McDermott the problem? Can Josh Allen win the big one? Has Buffalo missed its window? From a surface-level perspective, the criticism feels justified. The Bills have now spent multiple seasons as AFC contenders without reaching the Super Bowl. They have lost playoff games in different ways: defensive collapses, offensive stagnation, late-game execution failures, but the result has remained the same. However, context matters. Sean McDermott's legacy: builder, stabilizer, but limited ceiling. Sean McDermott deserves credit for what he has built in Buffalo. Before his arrival, the Bills were a perennial afterthought, cycling through coaches and quarterbacks while the AFC East belonged to New England. McDermott brought structure, accountability, and a defensive identity that transformed the franchise. Under his leadership, Buffalo became a consistent playoff team. The Bills developed a culture of toughness and preparation. They drafted and developed a franchise quarterback. These are not small accomplishments. But the divisional round highlighted McDermott's growing limitation: adaptability. In January, opponents are too good to beat with preparation alone. They force adjustments. They exploit tendencies. They demand in-game creativity. Too often, Buffalo has appeared rigid when flexibility is required. Conservative decisions, predictable defensive looks, and a reluctance to fully lean into offensive aggression have haunted the Bills in their biggest moments. That does not make McDermott a bad coach. It does, however, raise legitimate questions about whether he is the right coach to finish the job. Josh Allen. Superstar talent, unfair expectations. Josh Allen remains one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the NFL. His arm strength, mobility, and fearlessness allow him to make plays few others can even attempt. He is the engine of Buffalo's offense and the primary reason the Bills remain contenders year after year. Yet the divisional round once again highlighted the burden Allen carries. When Buffalo loses, Allen's mistakes are magnified. Turnovers become defining moments. Risky throws overshadow the plays that kept the Bills competitive. The narrative quickly shifts to whether Allen is too reckless or can't win in January. But that framing is deeply unfair. Allen is asked to do everything. He extends plays. He runs as a power back. He carries an offense that, at times, lacks balance and consistency. When the Bills fall behind, the burden increases exponentially. The margin for error disappears. Quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes benefit from elite offensive scheming, reliable protection, and adaptability from the coaching staff. Allen, by contrast, often becomes the solution to problems that should be addressed structurally. His mistakes are real, but they are often the byproduct of an offense that relies on him to be perfect. The real issues in Buffalo: roster construction and offensive balance. Blaming McDermott or Allen alone ignores broader structural flaws that the divisional round exposed. Inconsistent offensive identity. Buffalo has never fully committed to a balanced offensive approach. The running game has fluctuated between effective and forgotten. Offensive line play has been uneven. When the passing game stalls, there is no reliable alternative plan. In the playoffs, defenses are too disciplined to allow quarterbacks to carry everything alone. The Bills' inability to consistently control tempo or win physically at the line of scrimmage has repeatedly hurt them in January. Defensive decline at the worst time. Once the backbone of McDermott's philosophy, Buffalo's defense has not consistently delivered in the postseason. Injuries, depth issues, and schematic limitations have all played a role. Great defenses adjust. They disguise coverage. They confuse elite quarterbacks. Too often, Buffalo's defense has been predictable when unpredictability is required. Divisional round winners. Teams that adapted when it mattered. While Buffalo wrestled with familiar demons, several teams emerged from the divisional round stronger and more convincing. Winners. Coaching flexibility. The most successful teams showcased coaching staffs willing to change approach mid-game. Offensive coordinators adjusted protections. Defensive coaches disguised coverages. Head coaches trusted their instincts instead of playing not to lose. In January, rigidity kills. Adaptability wins. Winners. Quarterbacks supported by structure. Elite quarterbacks thrived not because they were flawless, but because they were supported. Balanced play calling, situational awareness, and intelligent clock management reduced pressure and maximized efficiency. This contrast only emphasized Buffalo's over-reliance on individual brilliance. Divisional round losers. More than just Buffalo. The Bills were not alone in disappointment. Several teams left the divisional round with uncomfortable questions about their future. Coaching staffs that failed to adjust. Roster imbalances that became impossible to hide. Quarterbacks placed in unwinnable situations. The lesson across the league was clear: talent alone is not enough. Structure, adaptability, and timing matter more than ever. Why firing Sean McDermott won't automatically fix everything. The temptation to move on from McDermott is understandable. Fans want progress, not explanations. But replacing a head coach without addressing deeper organizational issues risks repeating the same cycle. If Buffalo does make a coaching change, it must be part of a broader philosophical shift, one that modernizes the offense, embraces aggression, and reduces the burden on Josh Allen. Without that, a new coach will inherit the same problems. Josh Allen's window is still open. Despite the frustration, Buffalo's championship window is not closed. Josh Allen is still in his prime. The AFC remains competitive but fluid. With smarter roster decisions, improved offensive balance, and greater coaching adaptability, the Bills can still contend. The divisional round loss was painful, but it was not a death sentence. Final verdict: a shared responsibility. Sean McDermott did not fully work out in Buffalo, at least not in the way a Super Bowl winning coach must. But he is not solely to blame. Josh Allen made mistakes, but he is not the problem. The truth lies in the space between them, in structure, philosophy, and execution. The NFL divisional round does not lie. It exposes weaknesses and rewards evolution. For Buffalo, the challenge is no longer about talent. It is about whether the organization is willing to evolve before time runs out. Because in the NFL, windows do not stay open forever, and January remembers everything.